As we end 2016, Charles Barkley has made analytics a national story again, and Dan D'Antoni has a much tweeted interview as well on his version of analytics. So, um, to me, calling something analytics isn't really important, but I think what we've learned through deeper looks into basketball, both from statistical modeling, but also being able to capture more data because of the sports VU cameras and stuff like that in NBA action. We're more precise with where players are scoring, how assists are created, what types of plays create points, and not just looking at the end product. So, previously, before kind of the technological revolution, we kind of looked at, well, what's the end product? Okay, well, we made this shot from 12 feet out, so we shoot that at 50%, that's a good shot. But how's that shot created? And now we're able to discern a lot more information about how shots are created. How do we get certain shots, and what types of shots are better than others? How can we differentiate shots around the basket? We know that shots around the basket, especially an uncontested shot around the basket, is the best shot that we can get. But how good is a shot around the basket if it's contested? What if it's a back to the basket post move? Is that the same type of shot, as a breakaway layup, just because they're both, right at the rim? And so now we're able to get some of this information, and first we're getting that information through the NBA, and now it's starting to filter down into NCAA and high school as well. And so, we've, Crossover put out a study this year showing that, steals are much more important at the high school level than they are at the NBA level, which makes sense because shooting isn't as good at the high school level. So getting turnovers and creating steals that typically will lead to layups and therefore higher percentage shots is the biggest statistical category that correlates with success. And so we know these things now, and so by using these ideas, we can inform our players, and we can create systems of play that value certain things. And so previous in Charles Barkley's generation, I was always turned off by the NBA when I was young because it just seemed like, well, you just need the biggest player and they can back down, their opponent and score over them. And so to me, that, as somebody who was never going to be that big, it didn't hold a ton of appeal. Now, I think we've moved away from size being a determining factor to really the skill being the determining factor. And to me, that's a good thing. And then what we're starting to see is now that players are becoming more and more skilled, well, then it's the skill with size. So if you have Kevin Durant's shooting skill and you're 6'11", you're that much more valuable than if he was, say, 6'3". He'd still probably be a great player at 6'3", but at 6'11", he has the versatility and the length to do so much more on the defensive end than a 6'3" player is generally able to do. And so now it's not that size is being replaced, and size is no longer important, or that post players are no longer important. Instead, it's that we know that protecting the basket is very important. How can we do that? Well, we need to have length, we need to have athleticism, we need to have players who can have versatility and play multiple positions and switch out and defend different things to keep players on the perimeter and be able to contest those perimeter shots. And I don't know that that's really analytics. I think that's what a lot of coaches have thought for a lot of years. If we can have, my friend Oscar always said when we were coaching, 10-year-old girls in, 2000, when you have shooters, offense is easy. And that's basically what analytics has shown us over the last decade is when you have shooters, you create space or gravity, as I think Kevin Pelton called it, and now you have space to drive. And if you have space to drive, now you can create better shots at the rim, or you can collapse a defense and kick out to those shooters at the three-point line for high efficiency shots. And so I don't think the argument should be whether or not analytics is good or bad. But I think we should be focusing on how we can use it to improve the game. And I think for the benefit of the game, and at least from my perspective, it's increased the importance of skill, and especially the skills of shooting and handling the ball. So at the high school level, generally preventing turnovers, which is both a matter of dribbling or ball handling as well as passing. And that's not just the simple act of bouncing a basketball or the physical act of, passing a basketball to a teammate, but it also incorporates the decision-making component. So, to me, a lot of turnovers are created because we put a little bit of pressure on the basketball, and now our attention focuses on protecting the ball, and so we miss a help defensive player rotating into a passing lane, and that creates a steal, go the other way for a layup. And so, to me, these changes that we've seen in the last 10 to 15 years, we're putting more and more emphasis on the skill of basketball, which to me is good. And then as the skills increase and more players have decent shooting skills, decent handling skills, decent passing skills, now the athleticism and the length becomes even more important, because you have to find ways to take away that shooting skill and take away the handling and the passing. And so it puts the emphasis then on the taller, longer, quicker players who can cover more ground, make up for teammates' mistakes, or if a teammate gets beat, and things like that. So it's not that, as Barkley seemed to suggest, that it's taking away big players and making everybody a three-point shooter. It's a matter of taking away less skilled players and less athletic players who just simply add height and weight usually, and instead valuing the skilled players, and then ultimately the skilled players who have length, especially, and quickness, to be able to combat the skills of the offensive players. And so as we wrap up the year, to me that's a benefit. I think that's a good thing, that we're increasingly valuing skill in basketball, and we're making the sport even more skilled. And then along with those advancements in skills, we see a need for more length and athleticism, quickness especially. So if you look at the players that most would generally put as the best players in the NBA currently, from LeBron James to Westbrook, Curry, Durant, Antetokounmpo, from Milwaukee, you see a lot of long players, with Curry being the obvious exception. Really great athletes who can cover a lot of ground, make up for mistakes, but also have passing, shooting, dribbling skills, and it doesn't matter how tall they are. They can handle the ball well enough. They can create their own shot. They can shoot, and they have the full arsenal of skills so that they can dominate a basketball game, both offensively and for many of them defensively as well, with their length and quickness. This is the last video of the year. I made it 366, one every day. If you haven't been watching daily, they're there on the channel to go back and watch. And this will be my last one for a while. But I am starting my newsletter again this coming week, Hard to Guard Player Development Newsletter. I did it for 6 or 7 years, took a couple years off, and now I'm going to bring it back. If you're interested, go to 180shooter.com and subscribe in the top line. Just put your email address and you'll be added to the list. Alright, thanks. Happy New Year. Have a good 2017.